most importantly, in our soul, we get to give the crowded streets back to the people who live and work here. What Rouge was to Ford in the industrial age, Corktown will be for Ford in the information age. A revolution in the artificial intelligence and big data that's going to be even more disruptive than that industrial age was. The station has good bones. It's in the kind of neighborhood that we know attracts and retains highly skilled and innovative dreamers, makers, creators, entrepreneurs. You know, I've always believed in the importance of a concept called design thinking. It's about open collaboration. And what you see with a property like this, you can create random, serendipitous interactions. The colleagues then are inspired when the inspiration strikes. That's what this campus is going to cultivate. Corktown to Dearborn, to Ann Arbor, to Detroit is the linchpin of this Southeast Michigan mobility corridor.
I think that it goes when community has a lot of amazing ideas about how to transform community. This is a great segue to, like, there's different ways that our cities need to act in order to make that possible. So I'm going to go through a series of principles that they've come up with here. There is the principle of co-governance. There's the principle of an enabling state. There's also the principle of pooling economies and urban experimentalism, like what you're doing right now, which is a form of urban experimentalism. And then there's also tech justice. And then experimentalism, this principle really links to the presence of site-specific and iterative bottom-up approach to design so that you can actually test things out in specific spaces. Like if the test is Michigan Avenue and you wanted to make sure that along with any kind of work done on the road, that there's also, like the gentleman we're talking about, the distributed energy generation, that you actually can take a segment of the area and try it out and see if it works.
Well, all right. The key questions that always come up: why is the electric power systems of today have very low efficiency, high cost, and low reliability? Okay, and the reason is simple. The majority of the electric power generation in the United States, in fact in the world really, is that most of it's done and accomplished in what's called the steam cycle. And this is where they either burn coal or oil or whatever. That's how most of the power is generated in the United States and, as a matter of fact, throughout the world. The problem with that system is the fact that when you do that change of phase from the steam to water, you lose a tremendous amount of energy, because that energy now is converted over to the water, and then that's exited out the canal, or it can go out into Lake Erie, or it can go into so the efficiency of the steam cycle is about 36% nominally, and even with supercritical units, about 38%. Our system, we end up with an efficiency of 79%, because we're not dumping all that energy into the river, the canal, or the lake. Okay? So that's how we gain a tremendous amount of benefit from doing it. The other issue that people always run into is why is the reliability of the system today worse than it was, in years past? In 1965, the frequency of interruption of the Midwest energy system was 0.21. That means that on the average, a customer is interrupted once in 5 years. That was in 1965. Today, it's like 2 or 3 interruptions for the average customer. That's 10 to 15 times worse. Okay? If you look at this, what a wonderful world it is. All of our lines are underground. That's why we call it power without wires. You just can't see any wires in any place.
But is this so a community can control the power or its own power or energy generation? So we see collective governments. This dimension refers to the presence of having multi-stakeholder schemes where community is organized, or whether it's organized or not, it can emerge and partner with public institutions and the private sector in the management of the urban commons. So that's the collective governance. Then there's the enabling state, and this expresses the role of the state in supporting and making the collective urban management possible. And then pooling economies reveals the presence of autonomous institutions that are managed and owned by local communities operating within non-mainstream economic systems, such as collaboratives, cooperatives, circular economies, for the creation of new opportunities and services in communities.
Oh yeah, hi everybody. So yeah, I'm Jesse from Corktown Detroit. We are a newly formed advocacy nonprofit here in the city of Detroit and in the region. And the work that we're primarily doing is asking the question of how can we make the places in our cities and our neighborhoods and our streets a place that people want to spend time in, a place that they feel that they can form community and have connection. And
by not taking away cars, we're not saying like there shouldn't be cars. There's a value into having that kind of flexibility. But it's a question of, have we built too much of it? Have we hindered ourselves by creating too much of it? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. Because every time, when we pay $70 million to pave a road, 1 mile of road, 2 miles of road, whatever that number is, we're gonna have to pay it again. In other words, we're gonna keep kicking the can. We're gonna let the next generation deal with it when inevitably it's falling apart. And along the way, we're gonna keep
bus driver, right? Like,
so let's just think about how
are
we
the
do
turns
this. That's what we
when inevitably
are advocating for, is just asking this question.
But
right? Do we need 4 car lanes? There's a highway right behind us.
also, I think people
That
just
is
want
the road.
to. They want a denser feel.
Yeah.
All of this traffic, all of these trucks moving down Michigan Avenue, right? But we can pull down some of these lanes and then let this, which is currently what we call Stroad. It's a street and a road trying to do the same thing. Make it a street. This is a place for people, right? The highway is the road for moving people. This is a street. So let's pull it back and let people live life. Let businesses happen here. Let people be created here. And that's the strong town model. It's to think resilience. It's to think at scale to the place that you're at, and to think about how can you make an area safer and more livable. And Michigan Avenue is kind of a big project right now that MDOT is doing, and we're advocating with other organizations to make sure it gets done the right way, because it's that threat right now to keep it as it is, 4 car lanes in a busy urban setting. But we're doing this all across the city, because Detroit has been overbuilt. It was a city built for.
This was originally my son's idea to come out to Norway. He's been enamored with the place for about a year now and really pushing for it. I wanted my son to understand what the world looks like, how to connect some dots, and the responsibility that we have in our own place in Los Angeles, in our own places, to do the good work. And I really wanted him to see that I'm not crazy for wanting to ride a bicycle in LA, and that when you go to other cities, you see how prevalent the bicycle and the pedestrian culture can be and how much better it is. We need folks to see it, experience it, love it, especially young people. They're the ones with the power. They're the ones with the future. They're the ones that need the resources to see and envision a future that is based in equity and have them inspired by a city like Amsterdam to say, hey, our city can do the same thing.
And then tech justice is open access to technological and digital urban infrastructure and data to be an enabling driver of cooperation and co-creation of the urban commons, because now we have all these technological systems, so being able to actually use them in a democratic way so that we can connect easier and add to what we're doing and sharing, like right now, this being broadcast also, so folks in the placemaking group can hear the different topics that are being spoken of, etc.
Yes, hi, and thank you, Monica, Jim, and company for producing this event today as part of Detroit Month of Design. Design Corps is an organization within College for Creative Studies that champions design in all of its platforms, and in particular have put our flag in the ground around elevating Detroit as a global thought leader in the practice of inclusive design. So we provide a variety of trainings and programs to help people gain the tools and the experience they need to practice inclusive design in their everyday work across all platforms, from city government, academic institutions, community organizations, activists, etc. So Month of Design is just one of the things we produce, but it is our largest program, and it happens every September. This is the 14th year. Next year, we will be celebrating our 15-year anniversary. We will also be celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Detroit's UNESCO City of Design designation next year. And all of those things come together under the platform of the festival to create connections and opportunities for local designers at all levels. So this year, the festival is organizing over 95 events featuring 250 designers in 80 unique locations in 30 days. So this platform is really to create opportunities for collisions, collaborations, and conversations that inspire new ideas and bring people together to move our city forward in a really impactful and important way where everyone's included and the outcomes are more equitable. So we really cherish Monica and Jim, the work they do, and are really grateful for them hosting their event again this year. And we look forward to the rest of the month with the closing ceremonies coming up soon. And then, of course, we'll begin planning and have already started planning for 2025. So we will see you all again the next several days and throughout the year.
And then there's also the social innovators, the businesses, the civic society organizations, the school institutions, and the public authorities. And we know in all cities we have all of these things, but how can we distribute the process so that we all can work together and actually things will begin growing? So
really the origin story of Detroit's industry are in these blocks, and we're kind of now over 100 years later at this inflection point. Renaissance Center was built in the early mid-70s. It was highlighted in MoMA in 1979. It was the biggest private land deal in U.S. history. I think I get that right. And Ford and the city was very proud of it. Interesting, Ford, was the one that put in. It had unfortunate effects, like it was kind of a giant Hoover for businesses downtown, that felt that it was safe and they could move into it, and it kind of sucked some of the life out of downtown. I have very, very mixed feelings about the Renaissance Center. I don't hate it at all. I'm glad in some ways that we have it, in many ways actually, but we're at this point now, many years later, where we're considering pumping tens of millions of dollars of public money into changing it into something else. Again, it was lauded as being a private deal, as not needing public subsidies. So now we're at a point now that GM has used it up, right, and has decided to move on, and it doesn't sort of represent the branded direction anymore. Like, what will it be? And I'm fascinated to think about it. Some of the so Bedrock has it, or is acquiring it now. I think most of the GM employees are gone. I went through it in preparation for this. It's always a little eerie in there, I feel like, even under the best circumstances.
there's this process where you start by mapping and then practice or talking about things like right now, and then mapping it out, then practicing it, then prototyping it and testing it and modeling it.
And we want to move on this because what we're doing in Inform Yourself right now is taking the vision of placemaking and letting kids know that we have a place for you. And what would you like to see in your place? What would you like to see?
We know that they need a place. You know why they need a place? Because they have shown over the years, and they've given us the statistics, that over 300,000 parents died during COVID. So when people say the home, well, the home is the school, the home is the church, the home is the community. And what would you like to see in your place? What would you like to see? And then we're going to make those notes and make sure that they are there. And if we go from school to school, 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to find out exactly the world that kids would like to see and be engaged in and feel prepared for.
And for kids, this is available to them 24/7, 365. So it's really about what isn't here that they're going to put there.
Yes, absolutely.
And that
So
has
I love it. It's very, very important work to a community. This is, even I can even see city council district offices should be utilizing you all to brainstorm with the young people before they make plans. And then you all are able to lift that information up to them in something like this, where they can start building it into their district plans as well. It's bringing young people closer and having their voices heard at a way higher level than it is right now.
There we go.
Wow.
So
we appreciate
it's a
feedback.
bottom-up experience, and governance doesn't really recognize what that means, but it means the complete reordering of how we get from point A to point B.
Yes.
And the kids are going to take us there. That I'm just fully
absolutely
convinced.
And they'll be more committed to stay in places where they have input.
There we go. There
Wow.
we go.
That goes-
You just said it all right there.
Yeah, that's the
beautiful.
growing Michigan report. I bet you're familiar with that.
Yes.
So you can see that if I pick a couple of sentences out of here, they're talking about education reimagined. But you can see from the nature of what's being represented here what this is about. And it's that, today's education system was designed more than a century ago to meet a specific, now outdated need to train workers for predetermined roles in the industrial society. How true that was, how great that was, it changed the world. But that's not the world the kids are facing today, unfortunately. And so this training goes, and if you scroll down a bit, Monica, this training goes more to, in order to reach the goal of the full demonstration of community-based public education systems, Education Reimagined seeks to engage in at least 50 communities. We hope to be one of those communities.
So let's reconvene and let's talk about how does Flip the Script and Goodwill Industries of Greater Detroit become the lead organization for the Education Reimagined grant that you're seeking.
And resilience in Pontiac. Tomoka and Shannon. Build resilience, raise awareness, to stay, to go, to stay. We knew that if we wanted to get something done, we would have to take matters into our own hands. Efforts, ongoing university community partnership. To do what? To raise awareness. To do what? Get rid of the negative impact. To do what? Get rid of the negative impact of toxic stress. On whom? Children. Why? Children need to develop. Children need authentic voices. Whose voices? Children. Whose voices? Community. Community? Children to do what? To communicate hope and build resilience. Effort, persistent investment. A picture of resilience emerges from those who persisted to invest in Pontiac. Digital design, thinking, platform, film viewing, and the Facing Project. Trauma, dialogue, written and the spoken words. Power, empowerment. Build resilience, raise awareness. To stay, to go, to stay. My neighborhood. Bring Pontiac back.
Me to really quickly talk about the city types and show if you want to show how they're linked to your the model that you created, we can do that. Yeah. So placemaking, of course, is building the social life of public spaces, but that also means that we, similar to somebody being a homemaker, a placemaker is looking at public spaces and how to develop those public spaces. So we've seen that there's standard placemaking, which is what you're doing right now is an example of placemaking, where people are coming together and they're talking, and you guys are fomenting a cadre in the street, and you're coming up with ideas about different kinds of things. And any plaza, park, public space where people gather together and are just being able to come into contact with each other and talk is all a part of placemaking. So the standard placemaking is just when people are coming together, but then there's all these very specific things that happen along the way. And Monica and Jim have shown on this slide how these different kinds of placemaking have occurred within Pontiac. But some of the things is we have what's called strategic placemaking. Usually that's like a top-down process where there's a giant transformation that's going to happen, and a lot of times community are a lot some if they're thought of to be brought into the process, a lot of times it's at the end rather than the beginning, so people aren't able to develop that process. But more and more cities are starting to recognize the importance of having having the community help to lead processes. So, and we want more and more that they come to the community first, so that people are not displaced and people aren't pushed around, and that they are involved in the decision-making process.
For 75 years, Michigan Central was the majestic train station where many visitors first arrived in Detroit. But that station closed back in 1988 and fell into disrepair big time. Ford acquired the property back in 2018 with a plan to turn it around. So we visited the rundown station shortly after, and Executive Chair Bill Ford, there we are, showed us around. And he showed us his vision for the building and the surrounding area.
I've been here my whole life, and I've seen Detroit in the best of times, and I've seen it in the worst of times. And same thing with our industry. We've had and our company has had lots of ups and downs over the years. But this was always photographed with some pejorative comment and usually a very negative story about Detroit.
The butt of many jokes.
Yeah, and I wanted to change that narrative.
Awful concept. And that comes into play with this monster here, which is stitched together with different monster parts. Here's like a chicken leg, like a reptile's tail here, and a horse's leg as well.
Wow.
And so, with that connected to this piece, I thought, what if he just has an idea of it and just fears this idea, but he doesn't know.
Right.
So he has this idea of like what he's gonna fight, but he's not sure.
And now that I am actually able to hear you and hear Gilberto, I'm realizing different things. So when we started this project, Holly invited me to create this vision. Think of like a whole journey, right? Learning experience and journey. And then, you know, Holly invited me to witness the first mobility summit. And then I told her, we need people from the community, because I was not able to see them there. I was like, how can we paint a mural representing the youth, and then we are not representing the community? So I was kind of pushing, and she got it, and she's like, okay, let's go. So we went to Cesar Chavez High School into Western, and to recruit people to come. And that's where Gilberto came from. Gilberto and some other junks from the community. And it is an effort. And you know, Holly's always being very open and very, how can I say it? Like, she's a visionary, you know? But not only that, she's super smart, and she's trying to put together a puzzle that is very complex, and she's very open, you know, to suggestions. It's going to take me some time to put it together right and all of that. But especially when we had the children here, they were expressing wild ideas and beautiful drawings and ideas. They were talking about, you know, portals to transport people and like, you know, like different ways of, you know, like
they're the
their
future.
ideas of mobility. They might be the ones developing those ideas.
Yeah.
You know? And they are open to give us proposals. You know, it was very fascinating to me, especially because they were doing
a great example, really, of a STEAM lab, because we were using the 3D printers. We were using the laser cutters to create the signage and that for the artist statements, and so we were integrating technology. But technology is a tool, and we really I believe that, like, you know, what is common among us, that human spirit is really what's transcendent. And if this place is going to be successful, not just as a place to have events, but if it's really going to be successful, then realizing those future dreams and the vision of young people in the city who will be using mobility longer than we will here. That's really the measure of success. If we're not successful at that, then we're not successful. And so I think we all took courageous steps together. William, so I think you might have checked in with downstairs. He's my co-visionary with Code Next. He and I had never run a mobility leadership lab. And so at YouthTank, we really believe that we're entrepreneurial. If we're going to be teaching entrepreneurship, then we have to be entrepreneurial about it. And how do we incorporate that? And that's what we've called on Elton to do, is to create this vision that incorporates, the first kid that came off of the elevator, the first thing he said was, hey, I thought we were coming to see a train station, And, so we decided to put a train. We decided we want to train in the image. We want to show that this is a historical place. But it's not in the background anymore. This is, if this is to be successful, it will be the center of a center for youth to build their own futures and build the city. And that's what we'd like each of these panels to inspire.
Bringing it into being.
So thank you for joining
So
us.
did you get to see the concept?
Yes.
They were building, putting together their ideas. So as you can see here, I am always very interested on incorporating real people into my murals because, murals are somehow a testament, it's like documenting the moment, maybe not through like in a book, but visually. And then you can see here, there is Gilberto right there, And I wanted exactly to represent that part, like these are the group of the people that were part of this summer and this idea.
Placekeeping is really focused on the cultural aspect and the history of place and the conservation of place and the preservation of place, as well as creating practices that are really connected to the environment and aren't destructive to the environment, and will carry forward essentially in a belief that there's that you're building anything in community for 7 generations and not just for one.